My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah.
Good morning, Pops the Paladin here. As you can see by my coffee, it's been quite a long morning, and I'm actually on my third cup. I have to admit, I have a little bit of a problem. But today, let's talk about myUI. I have a lot of people ask me questions about it when I stream, when I put up my YouTube videos, even just people in my guild who want to know how to increase better efficiency for determining what's inside my UI, how I track things, and how I have everything clustered. Now, things I want to state before we get into this. One, I have 3 computer monitors. The one where my camera is located is not going to be the monitor that I'm going to be looking at today, because I'm going to be doing everything live in front of you. This is something I don't normally do. I like to record my videos and come back over and edit over my voice. However, in order for me to show you each individual thing as I'm doing it live, I want to make sure that I'm focusing on what I'm doing, so that way I can talk appropriately for each individual action, each individual button that's going on. I will be trying to work to getting a camera to have it focus straight on center, but we don't always need to make creepy eye contact. You're watching my video anyways. You're not looking at me, even though I know I look dashing. So let's kind of jump into it, all right? A little bit of LVUI as my main. I'm going to type this up here. LVUI is my main user interface that I use. I find it very user-friendly. Now, granted, every time we get a major patch, this is usually broken, so and it always breaks on Tuesdays, and that's always our first day of raiding. So I'm usually raiding with vanilla UI, and it sucks terribly. But after they get all the bugs fixed after a major patch, it always works very nicely. People recommend Bartender or Move Anything. Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I like the functionality that LVUI uses. And so let's take a look at where my toggle anchors are. And keep in mind, everything that I'm going to be doing today, everything that I'm going to be using, I'll be putting down below, so that way you can follow the website link, or you can click on the annotations up above here, and that'll take you to the web page as well. So that way you can download if you want to use what I use, or if you want to just modify what I have. So let's take a look at my anchors here. Big things that go on. Hold on one second. Let me get this stupid character screen out of here. Alright, so things to note. All my raid frames nice and tiny over here on the left hand side, and all my boss stuff over here on the right hand side. Now, being a firefighter, my bunker gear is designed the same way every other firefighter is, in order to know if my fellow guy is down, I know exactly what pockets I can reach into to grab certain things to save his life. So, for a firefighter, left is life, right is rescue. So left, life, all of my teammates are on the left hand side because I want to know their life, and all my rescue, i.e. the aggro I need to generate, is on my right hand side. So here's my boss frames, here's my target frame, the target of my target, because I want to know if I target something, do I have aggro on that guy, even though I should know, because I use tidy plates. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But everything in terms of rescuing my fellow raiders or party members' lives is on the right hand side here. So here's all my boss frames. Right chat, you're going to see it right over here, over my selfless plug right here, over my Twitch stream address. My right chat is actually not in use. It's just there to give me the data text frames down below, of which I know it's hard for you to see it, but that's the only reason why right chat exists. Left chat behind my pretty mug here, you can't see it, but that's where I hide my left chat. For my specific person, my tune, my player health resides right in the middle, and my weak aura is built around it. My player cast bar is underneath a consecration weak aura, but above my individual DPS icons that are also weak aura. My focus frame, and I have that to my left hand side, because usually my focus frame is my tank. my off tank because I want to see what debuffs he has or how many stacks he has so I can taunt quickly as opposed to looking all the way over here. Sometimes I'll set a boss to focus frame, but that's very rare nowadays because my team has a very good taunt rotation, so I don't have to ever really include myself into the taunt rotation. My player debuffs because it affects my life, how quickly I'm dying. I have my player debuffs right below all my other information, right above my buttons. And I'm never really looking at these because everything should be represented up here. The only time I ever look down here is if I'm using, so to say, a trinket Might of Croesus, where I want to see if it's off cooldown because I don't have a specific tracker in there. It's such a touch and go trinket that I'm not going to build a weak aura for it. Everything else that you see in this upper area, this is all the quote-unquote crap I think I don't need. Even the mini-map, I sometimes turn it off in the middle of fights just because I want as much view of the fight that I can get. So all of this stuff up here, I just have it wedged into a corner so I don't have to stare at it. And that's what my LVUI layout looks like. Once again, you guys always need to customize this so that it's the best for you and your play style. So I'm going to lock it here. This isn't a tutorial about how to use LVUI, not how to use weak auras. It's just what I have. So kind of walking into here, and we're going to go to the DPS dummy so that way I don't die while I'm doing some slow things here. Taking a look at my weak aura itself, this is one big weak aura here, and that's this entire box. And I'll zoom, of course I launched that, but I'll highlight it for you here. Here's that box that is solely my tanking UI, what I need to know exactly what's going on, and it's all one big massive basically icon, what it's watching. So as I kind of build into this, I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. Right in the middle, my Eye of Tyr is my most important since it gives me a huge damage reduction, and it's an AoE DPS and an AoE damage reduction. So obviously I want to know when it's off cooldown because I try to use this to the best of my ability to slow down incoming damage. But if I'm in a burst phase, this is also a phenomenal DPS increaser right here, especially when surrounded by adds. To the left and right, respectively, you'll see Seraphim when I'm in Seraphim form. Now, if I'm not, this icon disappears. Here's my Avenging Wrath that's always here, and you can see the bars that outline my character. Now, I'm going to put this into DPS Go mode here in a second so you can see how it all interacts. On the right of Avenging Wrath is my Bastion, and on this lower right-hand side is Aegeus or Aegeus, or I don't know. I'm not very good at pronouncing these things. But Aegeus of Light, which is that defensive cooldown that we can use for other teammates. Both of these are also based on talents that you picked. You're going to see that when I turn off my weak auras here, that they disappear because I don't run them. They're not a DPS increase for me, and they're not really a survival increase for me either, based on the way I play my character. Down below, this is everything that I need to do in DPS fashion. DPS, here's me just getting around and or survivability. I think it's such a minute survivability that I don't even use it to save myself. And then obviously my taunts. I want it dead center in the middle. These are my three most important things in my opinion. My Eye of Tyr, my Lay on Hands, and my taunts. So they're all in the direct center of my UI. So this is DPS. Obviously this is all my survival here. And you're going to see how all my survival icons grow as I start to use them. This is my static damage mitigation and protection based on what I have right here on my character. You can see, you know, my armor as it comes off and what just my static protection is right here. You can see as I go up here and hit this guy right here, boom, my number changes as I activated Shield of the Righteous, and it shows you how much I'm mitigating in terms of my overall damage, which is really helpful as well when you're going balls out DPS wise. You want to know when everything's going on. Right in here there's going to be an absorb that I'm going to show you once I get into actually clicking my buttons quickly, so that way you can see it pop up. I'll talk about my bulwark of Order absorption shield that'll pop right here in this little area. So let's just kind of get into it. So as I go in here, you're going to see as I go through, I pop my Seraphim. There's my bar, so I know when I need to hit my Shield of the Righteous to increase my DPS, my Avenging Wrath as it's coming off cooldown here, and kind of how all these work. Now there's my Bulwark of Order showing me that I've got 966k absorb going on right now and a good amount of damage mitigation. Here on the left hand side, I have multiple indicators for some of my abilities because I panic sometimes and I want to see every single thing that I can imagine. So right here on this bar on the left hand side, it's showing you each one as I'm getting a charge. You can see how the charge correlate. I'll use one. There's no charge anymore, so it's off cooldown. There it was, pop back up. Shows you the amount of damage I'm mitigating right here, and then how long that is, or how long I have that protection for. I'll do it one more time. Here's my how long I have my protection for. Also right here in the middle, I'm gonna have to admit I stole that from Sloot. I thought it was a really nifty little guy to be staring right in the middle of my screen, so I click this. Shows me right where I'm staring at my character, how much protection I have, how long I have, and it's just a nice additional icon to know that I have a Shield of the Righteous up. So dealing with Shield of the Righteous, as you noted down here, as I click Shield of the Righteous, I have damage mitigation, damage mitigation, damage mitigation, and anything else external, it will kind of all compile in a nice order for us. And it lets me know everything that's on. So if I call for Bark Skin and I have a healer who forgets to put Bark Skin on me, hold on, I got a little off balance with my DPS rotation. When I have a healer who refuses or forgets to put Bark Skin on me, I can call them out for that because it did not appear down here when I asked for it. So all my countdowns are working as I need them to. We get this guy going up here again, just showing it all as it's working all together. Now, another thing that we can do, and I'm going to step away from here because I don't need to be doing DPS anymore for that. Look how pretty I am. Oh, there's a Devo aura. I guess not anymore. Anyways, so you can see how it tracked. As soon as it applied to me, Weak Aura picked it up and it said, hey, you have this protection here. See if I can find a healer somewhere around here. Usually always somebody walking around. There we go. There's some Devo right there. Bam, you see it up in my right hand corner. It popped up. It shows that it's a buff on me. And I know that, I have a 6% reduction for Devo. In terms of how my Divine Shield, Lay on Hands, and Blessing of Protection work, every time you pop one of these, obviously they're going to give you Forbearance. If you're here as a Protection Paladin, you know how this works. But in case you don't know, if you have one of these majors, and I call these like super life-saving majors, you'll hear me in Raid on Twitch. I'll say, hey, my miner's off cooldown. Hey, my miner's on cooldown, or my major's on cooldown. My major is my Guardians, and my miner is my Ardent Defender. But one of my lifesavers, they all apply a forbearance on you, which means you can't get one of these lifesavers again for 30 additional seconds. So as I go here and I click Divine Shield, you're going to see on top of here, I've got two things that happened. I get a forbearance tracker, which tracks everybody in the raid group who's getting forbearance. And then on everything that had forbearance that could be placed on it, you see a forbearance icon appear. And that lets me know that I can't use these things for another 10, 9, 8 seconds until that forbearance comes off. But as soon as that forbearance comes off, in 3, 2, 1, you could see my icon comes back and I can lay on hands myself. And now I've got a forbearance tracker again. So that's kind of the way that I'm telling myself, don't use it. Or, you know, if you know you're going to take an ability, like for Odin, I would bop myself through one of the spears. I would Divine Shield myself through another one. And this is a good way to track, to say, oh crap, I don't have something, I need an external, please help me, please help me. And you'll see that all of the rest of these track the same way. Here's my Hand of the Protector. I've got a nice cooldown. I'm not in a party, so my hand, or my Blessing of Sack, isn't gonna really work well, but you see it comes as a nice cooldown just like all the rest of these. Now, what I didn't mention when I was DPSing was this consecration timer, and it just shows you a nice little bar of how long your consecration's got for cooldown. It's actually tracking how long it's on the ground. So if you had a relic that showed or added additional time for consecration, it would actually show you how long it's going to sit on the ground, not necessarily how long it's on cooldown. So you could add a tracker to say, every 7 seconds I can drop a consecration, so I can have multiple consecrations on the ground doing ticking damage. However, the way I gear my paladin is I try to get all 3, and you'll see here I successfully did it, all 3 Ardent Defender reductions. And what this is really going to do for you is bring that Ardent Defender down to a 60-second cooldown so I get Painful Truths. And that's why you see how the way I designed this weak aura. This is not a miss in terms of how it is. This is actually my cast bar. So if you see a flash of light, there's my cast bar. So it doesn't interrupt anything that's there. That's why there's that weird gap. But there are times where I need to heal myself. I do not track my mana because honestly, I don't care. Because I really don't use it. As a tank, you really shouldn't be using your mana that much. So I actually have it turned off. If you want to turn it on, it's just in my LVUI settings. I just have it shut off. The mana bar would appear right here, right above where it says PvP on my specific health bar. Other things. Alright, so more weak auras that I've got here. As we look inside, there's my forbearance tracker that I mentioned right up in here. I designed a specific Gul'dan tracker. Actually, it was my raid leader, and I designed a specific Gul'dan tracker that meows at me. Now, he loves meows. But what it does is, as soon as Gul'dan loses that buff that he gets when the tanks walk on each other, it meows on you, so we know to step on each other again. And that triggers it at about 25%, which keeps damage low. I have an Infernal Contract tracker, which will only appear when I have Infernal Contract equipped. And it will show me... Here, I'll show you right here. It'll show uptime, it'll show my on-use, then it'll show when I'm getting backlash, and then it'll show when it's on cooldown. So it's a really good tracker in terms of what's going on here. There's my damage reduction that I've got. Here's all my protection that comes out, and you can see how it just splays out down here. Through, paint sup and wings, and you even see here I've got my little cavalier symbol in there, though I'd never use it for survivability. That's the item that I stole from Sloot. Thank you, Sloot. And then my tank absorption right here, you can see as that sits down there. Then what I didn't mention, and because it doesn't work unless I'm in a party and that party member is also fighting these items, is this threat bar, and it grows in size. And I'll show you real quick as I run back towards these dummies. You're gonna see how I'm gonna get additional ones. Whoa. How I get additional ones pop up here once I back out of here, and you're gonna see how I have 3 of them now because there's 3 targets in range of me, and each one of these bars goes from nothing to bright red. And when it goes to bright red, that means I have the aggro. I have everything that I need in order to maintain threat. And then this last one is my night hold. And what you're going to notice here, I want to pull this up here. It looks like they're overlapping, but my paladin protection is growing left to right, and my night hold is growing from right to left. And so they won't overlap because you don't get like 27 of these debuffs at the same time, and I also won't get 27 protections at the same time. And that's just a good way to keep it in view on the right hand side where the boss is of what's going on. So those are the weak auras that I have. I'll link them all below to get you going. Other things that I use that are good to try to maintain a good Tankadin class. I use Deja Character Stats. And Deja Character Stats gives me just additional items that I would never have using the standard WoW UI. I use details, and you see that down here. I have details in terms of damage that I can also flip to healing if I wanted to, or anything else. And then I also use details tiny threat. And that's just my aggro meter checker. My off tank and I have a little bit of trouble with aggro because I'm doing 400-ish K and he's doing 170K, It generates a lot of aggro issues, so I have to sometimes watch this to back down a little bit. I use Exorcist's raid tools, and Exorcist's raid tools is absolutely a must in terms of having a good tanking setup here. You're going to see my raid markers are down here, my ready checks, my pull timers. You see my pull timer comes up here. Very important for being a good tank, having it in close range, close proximity there. Exorcist does a couple other things that are necessary for high-end raiding. I use Get the Fuck Out, or GTFO is the shorthand term, because I like auditory noises. Sometimes I'm focused on doing something else, and all I need to hear is that womp womp and a sidestep. I use Pawn, and a lot of people kind of laugh at me for Pawn in terms of protection. I use it in two different ways. In order to see my weights, I have a survival weight, and then I have a DPS weighted total, and my DPS weighted total is pretty much running directly in line with this Retribution Paladin setup here. High haste, high crits, and everything else. So Pawn's really useful when paired with Simulation Craft, and so in running Simulation Craft, that's SimC right there. It allows me to take my character and put it right into Simulation Craft in order to see if I can increase my DPS, along with checking out my Thekmore index to see how much damage I'm actually taking at the same time, because you do have to have a fine line balance of it. Other things I use, tidy plates. You're not seeing it here because I have friendly tidy plates turned off, but enemy tidy plates are turned on. There they pop up right there on my screen. You can see my tidy plates, and I have threat-based tidy plates as well, or threat plates as an add-on, and they change colors based on if I have threat on them or not. And then the last thing I use is spec swap. Spec swap is useful because there are times where I have to go from tank to DPS. You'll see here. And then you'll see all my trinkets and everything change based on my exact class. And spec swap's pretty good as long as, and this is something that I had to learn, you have to name them exactly what each spec is called. You can't come up with your own cutesy little naming pattern. But it will automatically change the things that you have set for each individual class. There you go again. I'll show you. Bow! And there they all change again. So those are I would say, the bare minimums for being a high-end raiding tank. That's my specific UI. Now I use DBM. Other tanks use big wigs. I like DBM because I have a British lady as my voice pack, so she speaks everything into my ear, which to me is vitally important, because once again, I'm a very auditory person. I don't want to look at my screen to see everything. I want a lot of audio playing at me. And that's kind of how I recommend you playing as well. One thing you couldn't hear, because I actually have it only activated when my headset's on, is my Seraphim. I have an 8-second timer that sonar beeps at me to say, hey, stop using Shield of the Righteous, because we need to get 2 charges for it. And so that's the only other auditory thing that exists in my character, or in my weak aura. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit with my UI. I will be posting everything down below in the video and the annotations up above to make sure that you can click to follow them. Modify it any way that you want, because once again, it should be designed how you play your character. Just like I've always been designing mine to play for my specific play style, you should do the same for yours. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to help you out with your weak aura strings, modify it to assist you or anything like that. Happy hunting, good luck on your boss kills, and I hope you get some good loot in the future. Until I meet again and talk to you soon, have a good one.